Yorana et bienvenue, or welcome. A missionary's grandfather, who served as a mission president, gave his grandson the following advice, and he told me about this the other day. Develop resilience and flexibility. Sage advice from a grandpa, I would say. Of course, grandparents always give sage advice, right? Seriously, I like the power of these two words, resilience and flexibility. Let's take a closer look at why these qualities can be so essential for missionaries, but also for all of us throughout our life. What does resilience really mean? I like the following definition, which I've kind of taken from several places. Resilience is the ability to bounce back from adversity, challenges, or setbacks. It involves maintaining a positive and flexible mindset in the face of difficulties and using them to grow stronger. Resilience can apply to individuals or communities and is characterized by the capacity to thrive despite obstacles. That's a lot of words, but frankly, it's very meaningful to me. It not only applies to individuals, but it can apply to community. You can have a resilient mission as a whole. You can have a resilient ward, a resilient family. This word is a powerful word. So while serving as Sunday School General President, those in the missionary department asked me to give a presentation to them about my thoughts on missionary work. What was the main point of my presentation several years ago? I said, well, I think we need to discover how to help missionaries flourish, not just survive or endure, but really flourish. The word flourish is a lot like the word thrive in the definition I just read, the capacity to thrive despite obstacles. Interesting, huh? Elder Ballard once said, when a missionary knows that he knows how to teach, he wants to do nothing else but teach. That's a missionary who is, at least in my view, thriving and flourishing. So much contributes to that kind of mission. And two of the main contributors are resilience and flexibility. Missions and life, for that matter, as a whole, brings so many challenges, so many difficulties. And the degree to which we can rise above those challenges and difficulties determines how much we will flourish. I love the following thought from Elder Bednar. When we plead for relief from physical, mental, and spiritual difficulties, the Lord may increase our resolve and resilience. Oh, I really like this. I have to say it again. When we plead for relief from physical, mental, and spiritual difficulties, the Lord may increase our resolve and resilience. That resolve part is our will, the will to do something, the will to make things better, the will to get back up and try again. And resilience, of course, is that inner strength. Now, when I saw this in one of Elder Bednar's recent talks, I thought of another talk he gave on the strengthening power of grace. He reminded us that when Nephi was tied up by his brothers and left to die, Nephi did not pray that the Lord would loosen the bands. He prayed that the Lord would give him strength, would give Nephi strength, so that he could loosen the bands himself. Nephi might have said, Heavenly Father, please make me more resilient. Resilience is a special kind of strength. It kicks in when the going gets tough. Nelson Mandela once said, do not judge me by my success. Judge me by how many times I fell down and got back up again. Here was a man who was unjustly incarcerated for 27 years. Think of it, a good part of his whole life. And he got back up again and again, so many times. He would not let his enemies dictate his destiny. He reminds me of Viktor E. Frankl, the Jewish psychologist who spent years in Nazi prison camps. He once said, quote, when we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. One more time, because it's so good. When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. Frankl's advice is so similar to President Nelson, who has taught that we should be able to find joy regardless of our circumstances. Frankl had to endure circumstances more dire than most of us could ever imagine. And yet, he survived. He not only survived, but he made tremendous contributions following his release from those prison camps. He was resilient in the face of near starvation and the threat of death. You are likely familiar with the well-known poet Maya Angelou. She endured countless difficulties while growing up, not only racial discrimination, but a host of other painful life experiences. If you've read her biography, it's quite moving. What was her counsel? Quote, "I can be changed by what happens to me, but I refuse to be reduced by it." Again, these quotes are so good. I can be changed by what happens to me, but I refuse to be reduced by it. Things around us, the events that happen in our life, can change us, but we cannot allow those things to take us down, to make us worse. Even when others attack us, we can refuse to be reduced by it. We can refuse to be offended, as Elder Bednar once taught so powerfully. Resilience leads to healthy relationships with God and with others. A resilient person doesn't blame God or others for the problems they encounter. Rather, they draw closer to God and to others as they adapt and recover from setbacks. They recognize that God helped them overcome their difficulties, sometimes through the help from others. So that's a little bit about resilience. Now, what about flexibility? This other bit of counsel that the missionary's grandfather gave him before he came on this mission. First, I like to think of the opposite of flexibility. For me, the most descriptive opposite is rigidity. Rigidity is an enemy of progress. A rigid person wants things to stay the same. They hold tenaciously to the past, the good old days, quote. They hesitate to accept change when it comes. I remember when ministering replaced home teaching, and I spoke with someone not long after that, and he said, I like the way it was before. I like the once-a-month visits, and we were done. I like that better. And when the 2-hour schedule came, there were some, it's interesting to me, but there are probably still some that say, I like the 3-hour schedule better. I don't know why, but I just liked it better. When Ellie and I were serving as mission leaders, I attended a mission president seminar and was invited to sit at a table with Elder Ballard. As he motioned for me to sit down, he asked, President Osgathorpe, do you feel the 3-hour schedule is a deterrent to friends of the church who are considering baptism? I responded, Elder Ballard, I actually think the 3-hour schedule is a deterrent for everyone, young children, young parents, aging members, everyone. The other mission presidents at the table were surprised at my candor that I was so kind of out front and honest with Elder Ballard, but he asked me and I told him how I felt. Here's what President Hinckley once said about flexibility. We must not become set in our ways to the point where we cannot accept change, especially when change is for the better. The work of the Lord is constantly progressing and moving forward, and we need to be flexible and open to it. President Hinckley knew that openness is key to discipleship. We can never get our minds made up that there is only one way to do things and that one way is our way. Flexibility is key. When we began our mission here in Tahiti last January, the first month, frankly, was a blur. We laugh about it now, but at the time it wasn't very funny. It seemed like the rug had been pulled out from under us, so to speak. Anything we knew before had to be discarded in a way, or revised or changed in some way. Culture, language, weather, mission protocol, everything was new. We had to be extremely open. I remember one very difficult day when I was returning to Papeete and got totally lost. I mean, really lost. I was trying to use the GPS maps program, but it actually got lost itself. It really did. It was telling me to turn right, then left, then go straight, and it would tell me to turn where there were no roads. So I finally figured out the GPS was lost itself. And when I saw the same building ahead of me, the same one I had passed just a few minutes before, I realized the GPS was just taking me around in circles. I couldn't remember a time when I'd been so lost. and it wasn't a good feeling. I needed resilience and flexibility, all right. I probably didn't have enough right at the moment. A lot of resilience and a lot of flexibility, and I needed even more. I needed to know that God would help me adjust to this mission, even though I'd had a lot of experience adjusting to newness in my life. This was somehow different. I'd come back to a mission where I was supposed to know everything about the culture and about the languages, both of them, since I'd served here decades ago. Maybe that was why it was so difficult. I'm not sure. I expected more of myself, and I felt like others were expecting more of me too than I could give. So things were challenging. This was no time for rigidity. I had to conform to the place and the people. I couldn't expect them to conform to me, and conforming is by itself a challenge. It requires change, a great deal of openness, and yes, resilience. So, that first month was a blur. Things have gradually changed, but it's mostly us who have changed, not the people or the place. The languages are still foreign, but we can cope better. When things don't go as expected, we find ourselves laughing rather than crying. So we laugh quite a bit still. We can laugh at ourselves and at the circumstances we face. We're trying to be both resilient and flexible. And the more we try to do that, the better life becomes. I hope this is helpful to you. Hope you can be resilient and flexible this week as the week goes along. And we'll see you next time.